Hello, everybody. So this is a interesting setup that we're doing right now because I am on not a heavy medication, but on a bunch of medication because my back has a pinched nerve. And so we're not at Meow Meow Studios. We're here at the D House in front of our Christmas tree. And this ET, I have an ornament on this tree from every year that I was alive, dating back to 1979. I think ET was like 1982 or 3 or something like that. But yeah, so we're gonna keep the show going. I will be drinking an endorsement, which is Sky vodka, dragon fruit mixed in with Diet Dr. Pepper. So that'll keep me going through this. Since I have taken the amount of Advil that I am allowed to take before I become a werewolf myself. So, all right, brief update. This is House of Horrors discussion. I did a film called Plan 9 that comes out in the U.S. In February to April, somewhere in there. And in the meantime, they wanted me to start preparing my next bigger film on that level, which is going to be House of Horrors, which is a monster mashup, Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy, so on and so forth. And so to make sure that I'm doing it correctly, I'm doing an analyzation of each monster and what they mean, where their backstories came from, what they are to each other, and of course seeing what people have done in the past, and then also so I can layer myself up for the stuff that I'll be doing. So we did Frankenstein's monster, then we did the Gill Man, Creature in the Black Lagoon, then we did Hyde, and now we're on the Wolfman. There's a series of 10 films that I watched that we've gone over. We're going over the last 2 in this show. And then there'll be 2 more Wolfman shows because there are 20 additional pieces that are not film, whether it's novels, documentaries, comic books, stuff like that. By the time we do the next show, there will be an official fan page for this versus just the notes on my Facebook. To help you guys, you can see all the things that I'm reading and watching. You go and do it. So we're a little behind on some questions. So before we get into the 2 films, I will answer some of your questions now.
Okay, Stephen Har has some comments when you had asked about how many shows you should have. So we'll knock those out. Mm-hmm. His thought was, I don't mind there being 3 shows and a big one. And I think you should do similar shows like this for other features you plan on doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved the back and forth with you guys over the discussions and things like that. I mean, to me, I always kind of imagine it as a Hammer film of a bunch of guys in a smoking room, even though none of us smoke cigars. But we're all smoking cigars, drinking brandy, and having those discussions. That's kind of what this feels like. This is the new age version of that. My background people just today, we've got Alyssa, as always, doing the questions. You might hear some movement back behind me. That's Salah. He's working on a coffin for our Christmas design that goes outside. And then the cat has been exchanged. It is Goliath, who may appear, but he'll probably stay pretty hidden because he's a shy guy unless you have meat. But yeah, so that's the crew, and we're going to keep it going. So next question.
Okay, Stephen Har again. Will House of Horrors have a Reservoir Dogs type turn on each other?
Well, okay, so I can't give too much away, but I can definitely say that when people want to watch this film, they're there for the fights. So there will be fights. But I don't know if it's all going to be at the end of the movie. That seems like a lot of the movies will set up so much story and then they all fight at the end. I think every 10 minutes we'll have some kind of interaction between the disagreeable monsters throughout the film and just keep that pace up. So that's my basic plan. And then I've got to pull something up for Steven. I've got a plug for him, and this might be a little tricky because we're using a different system right now. that is not as powerful as our normal battle station. So we'll see here. We're doing a plug if you guys want to check out Steven's film. I'm just trying to get the title of it now off of it's in a message. It was Mr. Something, but Steven's a good guy and a good friend of the show. And it is loading now. A field laptop that I usually use for transferring files as we from hard drive from card. So it's not used to using it in this kind of capability and is not performing well. But Steven, if you're watching, because I'm having trouble loading this, if you can put in the comments the name of it's Mr. Something. So yeah, I'm basically afraid to click off of this anymore because it might actually shut the show down. But I will plug it again in the next show with the title. But Steven, if you put it in the comments, we'll read the title out loud during this show. Steven's a good guy. I definitely suggest checking it out. I haven't met him yet. He came to the States and didn't visit me. But we won't hold that against him.
We love him anyway.
All right, Alyssa, what's the next question?
Okay, another one from Steven. Will characters from some of your other features be referenced in House of Horrors?
Reference, probably, definitely, since all my films take place in the fictitious town of Nilbog. I would say that there would be references. I don't know if they will make an appearance per se, just because it is kind of its own world that we're creating. But you never know.
I was trying to see if I can get on Steven's page to see if I can see if that is on there. Oops, now I totally lost it. So talk about something amongst yourselves.
All right, we'll go over the first movie, which is Night of the Werewolf, which I kind of got tricked. It ended up being a versus film, which is a whole other section that we'll be dealing with later. But Night of the Werewolf was a Spanish film where they had a whole other lore to vampires and werewolves. The werewolf was actually created by Elizabeth Bathory as kind of a servant hound. And they're Elizabeth Bathory, the Wolfman, and like a kind of knight and this other girl were all executed at the beginning of the film. And then 100 years later, they removed the silver cross stake from the Wolfman's chest and it brought him back to life. Elizabeth Bathory kind of came back at the same time. So it was a versus film. They do fight at the end of the film. So I didn't know that when I put it on there. I'd always seen that Spanish Wolfman and wanted to know what that was because I'd always seen the imagery but didn't know. The film is okay. It's a little ridiculous. Elizabeth Bathory lives in the basement of a castle. He lives upstairs in the castle, and they fight every night. Like, it's just having a really bad roommate, I guess, is the concept of the film. But it does have really, really cool visuals, and the vampires are cool. The Wolfman is well done. They did do a Wolfman transition to make an ode to the Lon Chaney Jr. 1941 film. Well, that was kind of cool where they did the panning, the still image, and they transition with more and more fur. Then all the other ones, he would fall behind something and come back up with a little bit more changed. It is a good film. It's I don't believe that I think the only way you can find it is subtitled. Now it is not The Wolfman versus the Vampire Woman, which is another Spanish film, which is I thought I downloaded the wrong film when I was watching it, but it is called Night of the Wolfman, and it's good. It definitely gives the idea that werewolves live forever and are pretty invincible. They don't age and that kind of thing. But the origin of how he became a wolf was more created by a vampire or just cursed by the vampire versus being bit or turning. And he does turn on a full moon. And like we had gone over before, this version of the Wolfman, it's for some reason when they do the makeup as a furry person, they're all about bloodlust versus animal instinct. Like they just kind of kill to kill. They don't eat the people, like they just bite people's throats and move on. Where a lot of werewolf movies, like American Werewolf in London, it was a wolf that actually ate people and just based itself on its animal instincts. Where a wolf man is very much a just a bloodlust fiend that will kill anything that moves. And this kept to that. But I'd recommend checking it out if you guys haven't seen it. And that is that movie. So we'll move on to another question.
Okay, and I went on this page trying to find it, and I didn't find any reference to this movie.
Yeah, it's Steven, I'm sorry. Let me know again. I mean, I have it in my messages, but once I hurt my leg or my whole back, we were a little nervous of actually attempting to pull that up in this show because it could shut everything down. But yeah, all right, so next question.
Okay, and then Stephen Har has some statements. He says Sheriff Kelton should run for president.
Sure, he might have a shot.
And then he said, I would run for office, but I hate exercise.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe jog for office.
And then his next question is, Stephen Har again, do you think the next Rocky sequel should have the aging champion up against the monster mashup?
The Balboa? Well, he's essentially become, like he has enough sequels that he's kind of has more movies than a lot of the Universal monsters. So he's getting up there with Godzilla. And eventually maybe we'll fight Godzilla. But no, I think Balboa would probably win that fight, I'd imagine, just because he's Rocky and only computer programming can actually beat him.
Okay, for another. Kenneth Tabor wants to know, can a werewolf have rabies?
Well, I would imagine. They haven't, I don't think there's been a film so far that's come across that. The only thing I've seen of rabies that have been a zombie film where people have been bitten, they have rabies, which was the also Spanish, the Wreck. Those films, the Spanish zombie films, they were living but had rabies. I would imagine that if he can get fleas, he could probably get rabies, but he has the healing factor, so he might only have rabies for like one night and then possibly heal himself when he does the transition back to human. Or back and forth, I don't know. So I would say yes, he could be afflicted with it, but it probably wouldn't last.
Okay, and then actually I have some input into this next question.
Oh, okay.
Kenneth Tabor. Also, if a man has a vasectomy, does it mean when he turns into a wolf man, he's neutered?
And you have a thing about this?
I do, because I've worked in the spay neuter clinic for cats. Vasectomy and neuter are two different things.
Oh.
So vasectomy is like,
removing the semen and stuff.
It's tying off the tube. So
and neuter is getting rid of it completely.
All the same functions. Everything's still the same urges, same everything. Neuter is just castrating.
And does it take away urges if you just remove?
Castrating,
like
yeah.
Castrating does?
Castrating does.
Oh, wow.
And so they're two different things. So.
Now, what was he asking about, neutered or castration?
Well, both. He brought up both. Also, if a man has a vasectomy, does it mean when he turns into a werewolf, he's neutered? So he'd be a vasectomized werewolf, not neutered. I don't know if it's
well, it's actually, the thing about it is the healing process. Because he might actually have a vasectomy and or neutered, but when he turns into a wolf, if he can cure AIDS and cancer with it, he could probably fix all of his inner stuff would fix itself. If it is the mortal werewolf. If it's not the immortal werewolf, if it's more of just like, because like in Silver Bullet, he gets shot in the eye and it takes a long time to heal. So if it's like that where you can lose an eye, then yeah, he probably wouldn't have any of that stuff when he grows up. But the other thing too is because with werewolves, they get the red rocket. So the penis up inside. But with Wolfman, they're always wearing jeans and clothes. So you kind of think that their shit's on the outside. So they're a little bit more on that aspect. And actually, Mariah talked about it. She did a gay werewolf movie where she had to make a furry ball and dick. So we have done that in the past. So I would say the Wolfman's got nards because that's what I've been told as a kid. And a werewolf does not. Werewolf, it all goes up inside. So I'm going to go with that. All right, next question.
We have someone new, Annette Mary Warren.
Hello, Annette. Welcome to the show.
What do they eat? I've never seen one have dinner. Ha. Do they just bite people they like and eat the ones they don't? Is that what they eat for dinner? People? And then Kenneth Tabor commented, they eat Soylent Green.
It is people. Well, a wolfman doesn't seem to eat anything. It does kill and bites out throats, but doesn't eat any of the people. Um, where werewolves do. They will, like, a lot of times when you see the body of a werewolf victim, it's just torn apart and like all of its innards have been taken out. Where a wolfman, it's usually just a slashed throat and it's moved on. So I would say the wolfman doesn't where werewolves do, and werewolves will eat anything: people, vampires, their own poop, which you haven't seen yet. Excuse me. Sky vodka. But I know dogs do it, so there's that.
Well, being human, they were always talking about that.
Oh,
yeah.
So there's this is some science to drop on you. We've had it in discussion before, but apparently there is a new height of wolf that's in the area, which is part coyote and part wolf. Somewhere there was a mating and there was a candlelight dinner, and I believe Dean Martin was there singing. And they fell in love and they made babies. And so now in our area, there is a kind of coyote hybrid wolf thing. So there is some mixed breeding going on. So that's something that apparently we have to look out for on our streets, along with bears. Next question.
All right, Stephen Hart. If a man is morbidly obese, how does that affect him as a wolf?
I've actually seen some of this before. Not so much in a Wolfman film. A lot of times, if they are obese and they turn into a Wolfman, they just gain all the abilities of the wolf, but their body stays the same. But there are other ones where they start changing, and you'll see their abs and ribs kind of start changing to kind of make the wolf body. But when they return to it, they return to wherever they were as a human before the cycle. So I think it's kind of, once again, it's kind of up to the viewer and the analyzer on how that all works in the writer of each individual story. But I would say it'll probably change them physically as a human. It'll probably make them more fit every cycle that they go through.
Okay, there's a question from Kenneth Tabor.
Kenneth,
are there different types of breeds of wolfman? Say, if the man's German, is he a German Shepherd werewolf? Australian, is he a dingo werewolf? And then, of course, what came up was Stephen Hart said, a dingo ate the baby.
A dingo did eat the baby. Well, I don't know, but when I was in high school or junior high, I wrote a book of all I was obsessed with werewolves, and I actually had that the different color fur was a different breed of wolf. The black wolves were the ones who would get bit, turn on the 30th day at the cycle, and become a wolf and never turn back. A silver wolf was the one that could turn back and forth and also keep part of its humanity up in itself. White were kind of like Nordic, Viking, kind of mystic magic kind of creatures that were completely human. They didn't have any wolf instinct. They just looked like a wolf. Gold were the king and queen that kind of started the whole thing, and I got really obsessed. And then, of course, Wolfman, and then there's the hellhounds that don't have as much fur. And so, yeah, I definitely got into it when I was a kid and wrote all the different kinds of breed by fur color and how they were different. Mainly just to kind of, since there was no set thing in movie lore, that I would watch these movies and I'd try to make it up for myself of like what those things actually meant. And so, yeah, I would say yes, there are definitely different breeds. We'll get into the last movie here for the 10 movies to watch, which is She-Wolf of London. Not a sequel to Werewolf of London. It actually comes out, She-Wolf of London came out in 46, I think, so it actually goes after the Lon Chaney version. It has not, well, I'm going to spoil it because it's analyzing, we're talking about it. I think it was, I mean, it's a good movie for what it is. It's a murder mystery, but there is no werewolf in the movie. There's talk of werewolves and they think there's a werewolf, but there's not a werewolf. It actually reminds me a lot of Haunted Honeymoon with Gene Wilder and Dom DeLuise, where they thought there was a werewolf lurking around killing people, but it was actually somebody in makeup, which this was a similar storyline, but not as a comedy as straightforward. It probably influenced haunted honeymoon, I would imagine. That, and also was on a lot of radio shows in the 30s and 40s were constantly have Wolfman in them for whatever reason. That just seemed to be like a story that they like to do because you could afford it when you're doing a radio show because you don't have to show anything. And am I still on? Off. I'm still on the air. That was weird. See, my computer, I went looking for Stephen Har's thing, and it just got all weird. So apparently I'm still on, so thank you guys for sticking around. But yeah, it's a good movie. It just doesn't belong in the werewolf category or Wolfman category because it really doesn't have anything to do with a Wolfman at all, which is a little disappointing. And it actually even comes. This was the last one I watched, but I have the entire collection out because a couple friends got them for me of the Wolfman, which also has some documentaries that'll go on my extra list. But She-Wolf of London was cool. It's the last Universal werewolf movie of that time period. But I mean, I wouldn't recommend it if you're looking for a Wolfman movie. All right, next question.
Stephen Hart, would a Wolfman still have tattoos or breast implants, etc., if the person had them?
That actually, it's once again up to the writer. I would say that those would get removed. I would when they go through the changes, they have breast implants, so I think they would just come off.
I don't know. I would think it would still be.
Or they would implode, maybe.
Pacemaker or anything. I mean, then they would have to they'd have to find them when they're changing back.
Or no, they'd be healed, I would imagine. And now the breast implant is just because it's alien, wouldn't come back at all. Their heart, if they had like a pacemaker, they might actually regrow their heart.
Really?
That's a guess because they heal so much when they change.
So if you were missing an appendage,
you might grow back.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh?
I've seen that in a couple of things where the Wolfman, I mean, the Monster Squad, it gets put with dynamite, explodes where its head, body, everything comes apart and it just reforms and he gets back up again. So it really just depends on the lore of what you're dealing with. But my gut would say those things would just push out of the body. That if they're not actually a part of their human or animal system.
Okay,
Next
Tabor had a comment on that. Breast implants, that's cougars, laugh out loud.
Nothing wrong with cougars.
And then Stephen Har says, grr, baby.
Apparently you all are aware. Maybe they'll mate with a coyote and we'll have another breed running around the neighborhood.
Perhaps. And Stephen Har wants to know if a Wolfman ate a hipster. Would the Wolfman turn into a hipster at the next full moon?
No, probably just get sick. I'd imagine. No, I don't know many hipsters. I do believe that they exist. They're kind of like the Sasquatch to me because I'm with Mariah and we're out. And I'm like, is that a hipster? Is that a hipster? I realize that I can never be one, even though they would never accept me because I do shop at Walmart, but not ironically. I don't think hipsters, because hipsters usually have a lot of detail about information that you start talking about. Like you start talking about music, they know a lot about that subject of music that you want to hear about or talk about to the point where they kind of talk down to you, which is why there's people aggress against them. But they didn't have all this knowledge. I have a lot of knowledge of things that only like 5 people want to talk about. So I don't think I can, it's not very hip. So I'm just more of a stir. So I will never be accepted into their tribe, but my application is in.
Kenneth Tabor, will Mariah display her werewolf willy?
As in Mariah has a dick? Is it, that's what I don't know. Or is it a wet willy? Oh, the one she made. Yeah, thank you, Slav. He's been watching. I don't think I think the guy who made the movie. Oh, here's our cat. This is the Darkstone cat. This is Goliath. He's got something really cool because one of his eyes is dead. So I think you could see there, like you see the one on the left in the mirror thing is his active eye, and his other one, we want to give him an eye patch, but he just kind of scares people. So he's kind of cool. But this is the Darkstone cat, who is named Goliath because he is a goddamn giant. I'll hear him run across the stairs when I'm down, or run across the floor when I'm downstairs, and think it's Mariah actually coming home. and it's really just our big ass cat moving around. The Willy that she made, I think the filmmaker kept, so he's got that somewhere on a mantle. I don't think that I mean, I remember her making it because I remember she came back and she's like, I'm making a wolf dick. And I said, I'm not making Skeleton Key. Why would you be making a wolf dick? But yeah, it was a whole thing. But maybe when the movie finally gets released to where the regular, I know it's in festivals and stuff now, but when it gets released to the public, we'll send you there. I'm a terrible person in it. I think I'm a rapist of young, and I didn't know that when I got cast. I didn't read the script per se, which is probably problem number one. I showed up on set thinking I was just a guard that eats a bunch of cake and gets drugged. And I found out that I was a rapist when this actor was acting against me, got tears in his eyes talking about all the terrible things that I have done. And I'm in the Kelton uniform. So, but I went to him and I said, maybe this shouldn't be Kelton, but I look exactly like Kelton. So, but I've got something to explain all the multiple Keltons that'll come out next year. So there'll be that. It's called Transdimensional, something I'm working on. They might be shooting a little bit in Poland, so that'll be something. But yeah, so we have that. And next question.
That would be from Kenneth Tabor. If a person is crippled and is cursed, will they still be crippled as a werewolf? Which we just sort of touched on that.
So I think that they would heal if the body pieces are there or can regrow. Now, I think there might be a difference. I think if you're born crippled, you might not heal because you're working with the organics that you first came with. But if you became crippled after, like if you had, straight and narrow body and then you got in an accident and got it messed up, that should heal, where if you were born that way, you might not be. I don't know. It would have to go the whole way. I've seen, there definitely is a werewolf movie where somebody was in a wheelchair and they were just a werewolf in a wheelchair. I don't remember what film it was, but they weren't able to get out of the wheelchair, but they were just a wolf in a wheelchair.
That's sad.
It was that's very sad. There was no running. Next question.
Kenneth Tabor, if a wolfman is an astronaut and goes to the moon, will he become a super werewolf or cure him?
I think he'll never change back. I think if he's in the moonlight that long, he will turn and never turn back until he's away from the moon. At the same time, if he's an astronaut and flies away from the moon to where he can't see a moon anymore, he may never change again. The lunar, I think it's just especially that close to it, he's probably even more batshit crazy. My mom used to work at a UVA hospital for 20 years, and she swears up and down when it's a full moon, just more weird shit would come into the hospital. People just act crazy. Which is why lycanthropy was related to the moon, and people were acting silly, and they just saw it was because of the moon and the tide pool and all that kind of stuff. So it's been explained to a degree of why they think it happened, or what are certain countries, their lore on lycanthropy. But I would say I would go with that. I would say be more deranged, because the closer you are to the moon, the more crazy you'll be, and you won't turn back until you can no longer see the moon.
And you'd probably rip up a spaceship and then crash.
Oh yeah, he'd be a bad guest. Yeah. He'd be a terrible, terrible guest. He'd probably kill everybody, except he may never die. He'll just float in space forever.
You won't get the deposit back on that rock.
No. He didn't make it to Mars.
Okay, then Kenneth Tabor, when a werewolf eats a human, do they have amazing digestion abilities? Or as a human, they're on the commode all day?
There's been talks of this. And there's actually some werewolf films have touched on it, where it's mainly not just because of eating a human, but the raw meat. Like if we were, as a human, if you ate like a person without cooking them, you might get very, very sick, because our stomachs can't deal with that. However, if our dog eats the same person, might not be sick at all, just because of the digestive tract and the way the body works. So I would say if they eat right before they change, probably going to feel sick as a human once they change back. But if they, run it off and digest it and take a big old shit before the sun comes up, they'll probably be okay.
Okay, and then Stephen Hart, am I able to do the shameless plug of a project I'm involved with?
Yes, and I wish I knew the name of it. It's Mr. Something. Go to Stephen Hart's Facebook page.
Oh, what about IMDb?
No, it wasn't on there.
Not
I
yet.
think he
Okay.
just got it started. We will talk about it again in detail, Stephen. Starring Google for now, but we'll get it right because I can't get to my email on this computer, so I can't. He sent it to me. I even asked for it twice. So I feel I'm a schmuck over here.
Okay, then we have another one from Stephen Carr. Why were werewolves hated by society back in the witch burning times?
I think that goes back to because Catholics used to believe that werewolves were part of demon possession, like animal possession. So they related it to Satan and demons, and that's why they always have pentagrams on their hands and things to that degree, because they thought it was work of the devil, as in a hellhound. Which is why I think all the Wolfman movies they're just killers and not animal-like. So I think because of that, I think it really just relates back to the. Now, I don't think Christians believe now that you could turn into a werewolf, but there are some who believe you can get possessed, so that's basically the same thing. But I think it was related to animal possession of a demon spirit, and wolf just being the most sinister of animals that also stays on most continents. Like there's some form of wolf on every continent, where there isn't continents with, like, not every continent's got a bear. But they all have wolves, and so that's why I think it's wolves. And wolves had bears. It would take a lot for a bear to attack a village, where a wolf pack might do it just to get food, because they were, hunters, scrappers and stuff. Where bears, unless usually it's a female protecting its, cubs, they would leave you alone. Or wolves, if they see you and they think they can take you, they'll take you down. And I think that's probably that aggression, that why they chose wolves to be the animal.
Okay, then Stephen Har, why is being a werewolf considered a curse?
Well, I think it's the loss of humanity. When you turn, you're no longer you, and you don't have control of your body. When they say wolfman, obviously it's because you'll kill people that you care about as a person. With a wolfman, you could be a good person during the day, but at night, actually, what's the Lon Chaney saying? Those who say their prayers and pray during the day can turn wolf by the wolf's bane. There's a poem that actually goes over this. I don't know it verbatim, but yeah, I think it's the fact that you lose yourself and you can harm your friends and your loved ones, and I think that's why it's seen as a curse. There are later films that the humanity does carry over into the wolf, and on those occasions, it's more of like a superpower than it is a curse. But it is, most of the time, it's looked at as a curse.
Okay, then we're up to current. We have Kenneth Tabor, who's talking about your drink. On a side note, switch to Diet Pepsi, no aspartame, and to be honest, I feel better since I switched.
Were you Diet Dr. Pepper? I just like the taste of Diet Dr. Pepper, but maybe I'll give it a go. I'm kind of out. Any kind of diet I can get a hold of, I'll try. I do want to make not another Skeleton Key, but we're going to make another film in that fashion, where gluten and aspartame are monsters that they have to fight. That's the whole thing. All right.
Okay, we have Milos Bukaraka.
Oh.
Holy crap! I finally get to catch a live one.
Oh, cool. Well, welcome to the show.
In certain movies and shows, werewolves have an alpha male in their packs. Do the Wolfman have any of these hierarchical structures, or are they always loners?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably pack oriented if they can find a pack. A lot of times it's only one, because they cross a wolf, get bitten, and then go on, versus biting like a group of people at a time. So that's why they're usually omega and on their own. But I think that if they had a choice of it and would actually choose, that they would make a pack for themselves and probably would do better in a pack, protecting one another. So I would say that they would go pack. However, Wolfman is a little different, because they're just batshit crazy killers. So they might turn on each other. They might not want to do a pack thing. I'd say werewolves pack, wolfmen just blood crazed.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
I was just checking the YouTube channel. Make sure we're on.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, it's always important. Oops. All one more here. Kenneth Tabor said there was a series, She-Wolf of London series in 1990, had actual werewolf in it.
I've not seen the show, but I saw when I actually did some research on She-Wolf of London, the movie. I saw that there was this show. It's not in my studies, but I'll probably be checking it out in my own time as well, just because it seemed interesting. I think it only lasted one season, but you know, I'll do anything werewolf wise. Versus Wolfman. Wolfman, I don't think I'm as big of a fan of as I am werewolves. I think werewolves are my favorite monster. Wolfman, not as much, but still kind of cool because it's a part of the werewolf lore.
Good. Kenneth Tabor wants to know, how are you writing the script? As you go or after it's all done? After it's all done. I'm going to get all my notes together. I have a notebook. As I watch each movie, I take notes, and I have a whole thing, and then I'm going to go away and write it all, probably characters first, and then start putting together the screenplay. But I'm going to get through all of this before I start writing. I think that is it. I mean, we just had that question from Kenneth, so that is it for the moment.
All right, we are caught up, and that is the end of our show. Any questions that we missed, we'll catch on the next one. So thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to do two more shows on the Wolfman, and then we're done with the Wolfman. We've got 15 or 20. I got 21 items to go over before I'm done with Wolfman. And basically the first 10 will be one show, and the next 10 will be the last show. And the last show, of course, we're going to kind of go over everything. We have one more question that we're going to take because somebody got it in under the wire. All right, Kenneth, give it to me.
You mentioned you weren't using the Dr. Jekyll part of Hyde. Are you going to do that with the Wolfman as well?
No, the Wolfman will be someone who changes. Where we're not there will be a Jekyll part of Hyde, but not Dr. Jekyll. It would be an experiment on a new person, and obviously it wouldn't be Larry Talbot as the Wolfman. It would be a new Wolfman, and Mariah's here.
Yay!
But yeah, so there would be a Talbot, or not. There won't be a Talbot or a Dr. Jekyll, but there will be an alternate ego of each character. But yeah, okay, so that's it. No more questions for now. We'll get back to them for the next show. I will post in the Darkstone group when the next show is going to be, and we are making a fan page for this that I'll get pressed out, and it'll be easier to keep up with everything on that. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching, and see you on the next one if I can get my mouse to work. Da, 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 da. It's not turned off, and it's slowly turning. So this is my living room. This is my tree, and this is my still going. Well, why are you still watching? It's